Here we go. Yo, yo, yo. This is not the smartest guys in the room. I see Tom in his dark glasses, dark frames, and his Iron Man shirt. He's getting ready to run a big race this weekend. So, Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Yeah, so it is coming up on race weekend here for me. So I'm getting myself in the mood. I'm wearing some Iron Man attire. I'm getting in the headspace. I'm eating lots of carbs. I'm starting my carb load today. So for the next 4 days, it's just going to be all carbs all the time to just get those glycogen stores up and make sure I'm ripper and ready to go on Sunday morning because I'm towing the line at Ironman Lake Placid on Sunday the 19th. So,
Well, we're your fans here are wishing you good luck, and I'm your number one fan, maybe number two after your lovely wife. But I'm right up. I'm right up there. So you seen that the Viking they call him, the soccer player from MLS? You see, like they've been showing his diet and things like that, and all the calories he intakes. So do you get to like eat tomahawk steaks and things like that too, or is it all like a wimpy carb, or is it like any carb?
all right. So here's the thing: is like there's two things to keep in mind. Like first is playing. And this is not to diminish. It's just to like I'm not saying this from a perspective of trying to make it seem like what he's doing is less than what I'm doing because it's not even close, right? I mean, he's a world-class professional athlete. I'm just a knucklehead who does crazy Ironman races, right? So, uh, not trying to position myself in any way at all. But what we do is very different, right? And the demands on the body are very different, and it's a very different thing to play an hour-long game time hour-long game of soccer or football as opposed to doing an Ironman race, right? Where like even the fastest pros in the world are out there for almost 8 hours, right? At the very pointy end, like the pros are coming in just under 8 hours. The male pros, the female pros are right around 8 hours, a little bit over. So like you're talking about a very different kind of thing in terms of endurance, right? And so, yeah, leading up to a race, you don't want to be eating a big tomahawk steak. It's a terrible idea. And the reason why it's a terrible idea is because, like, yes, you need protein, right? But leading up to a race, loading up on a lot of protein isn't really going to do you any good. And in fact, what it might do is cause some gastric distress if you are eating a ton of fat. Then come race day, you might have a little accident in your tri suit, right? And you don't want that to happen. So you don't want to start your race with a code brown because you decided to have a bunch of tomahawks in the days leading up to the race. So what you want to do is you want to eat some really easy on your gut, easy to digest carbs. And like for me, because I don't have a gluten intolerance or any issue with gluten, like one of the things that's easy for me to eat is like a bunch of bagels, right? So like I'm going to be eating a lot of bagels for the next few days. Rice is also a really good one, right? Is an easy carb source because what you want to do is top up your glycogen stores, right? Glycogen is how your body stores energy. You store it primarily in your liver, but also in your muscles. And so you want to make sure that those stores of energy are fully topped up when you start your race on Sunday, on Sunday morning, or when I start my race on Sunday morning. And so that's what I'll be doing. And it sounds like a lot of fun, but it's actually kind of work, right? It gets to be not a lot of fun by the time you're on like day 4 of a carb load because you're basically eating, for me, I have to essentially eat the equivalent of a dozen bagels a day for the next 4 days, right? So like when you put it in that context, it's not like, oh, you can eat all the pasta you want. Like, well, no, you have to eat more pasta than you want, right? Like that's the thing. So yeah, it sounds great on paper, but then when you start doing it, you're like, oh, actually, that I can see how that becomes a chore, and it does. It becomes a bit of a chore, but I just started this morning, so I have sitting on my desk in front of me is bagel number 2 for the day, and then I'll drink juice, and Becky made me not Rice Krispie treats, but cinnamon toast crunch treats right? So instead of Rice Krispies, she used Cinnamon Toast Crunch as the cereal with marshmallows and all that good stuff. So, yeah. So that's I'll be eating those and all kinds of other sweet treats, carb
All
heavy.
right. I one more question before we get into this is not the smartest guys in the room. Before we get into, I called it scaling is not a substitute for earning a client. So, Tom, last question on this. Once you finish the Ironman, give us the distance again, just so for the layman.
Sure. So a full Ironman distance is 100. The total race distance is 140.6 miles, and the way it breaks down is it's always swim, bike, run in that order. So you swim 2.4 miles, you bike 112 miles, and then you run 26.2 miles, or AKA a marathon. And that's the full race distance.
All right. Now, here's what I want to know. When you finish, is there something you eat, something you drink? Like now it's, what is the reward? Is there like, I know that the intrinsic reward throughout, but is there like a treat at the end?
Yeah, so there's always the races always provide food after the finish line. You know, it's often you'll see like there's always like kind of hot food or just snacks. There's always cold drinks, cold sodas, which are really nice. Like nothing hits if you like Coke, like Coca-Cola. Nothing hits like an ice cold Coke at the end of an Ironman, right? Like it's one of the rare times. Like I don't really drink, soda very much, and definitely not like full sugar soda.
Yeah.
But it's the one of the few times when I'll drink like just a regular Coca-Cola, and man, it slaps. It's freaking good. But yeah, there's always food and snacks and stuff there because they want you to like replenish a little bit. They want you to recover a little bit. They also want you to like hang out a little bit. And like if you start to get into a little bit of trouble, if you're dehydrated, if you've got heat exhaustion, whatever the case may be, they've got a medical tent right there. They've got people to take care of you in case you are running into some issues, because it's a big strain on your body. And sometimes they'll have beer on tap. That happens also for the racers. But regardless, my buddy Matt is doing the race with me, and our families we're all staying together in a rented house. And so regardless, we'll have some beers at the house that we can partake in after the race for sure.
Now you're talking. I was just moderating a mini triathlon recently, and afterwards they had these big vats of pierogies, and like they have them every year. And I told the organizer, I said, you need to get pierogies into the it should be like a big pierogi with like running shoes on and a running apron, and that should be like the marketing for this race.
What is a running apron?
Your little bib that you wear, whatever. Not a Dr.
Oh,
Tachi.
okay. You're talking. I'm serious. I didn't know what you're talking about, man. Like I've never heard anybody call a bib a running apron. Like it's the bib, like with your number, right?
Okay. You saved yourself. I was going to bring up cat suits, but I'm not going to bring it up. Okay.
I had no idea what you're talking about, man. Just trying to clarify.
This is not the smartest guys in the room today. I say scaling is not a substitute for relationships and earning a client. Tom, you wanted to reference this in terms of all these streamers mad at other streamers and monopolies and such. So why don't you break into what you had in mind? Go on.
Yeah, so there's some really interesting stuff going on right now in the world of business, right? And what it is I think anybody and everybody, especially if you pay any attention to media, but regardless, if you haven't had your head under a rock or head in the sand, been under a rock, I don't know, whatever sayings about not paying attention to the world around you, you know what I'm saying. Regardless, if you haven't been paying, unless you haven't been paying attention, about the Paramount, Skydance Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery merger, right? It's been approved by the FTC. It's been approved by the DOJ. They thought it was clear sailing. They were going to close in September, but it is now being opposed by three different sort of parties, right? And those parties are 5 regular subscribers who filed suit back in April, and then just this month, Actually, I think just last month, the Writers Guild filed suit against the merger also, and now 12 states have filed suit as well to block the merger. Essentially, on the grounds, they're also making the same argument that this consolidation violates antitrust rules, essentially because it eliminates competition, right? And it's interesting to me because the way I interpret this, and this is my interpretation, some of this is sort of my own spin on the current events and not necessarily purely based on evidence. It's my interpretation of the evidence. But what I think this looks like is I think this looks like the beginning of the ringing of the death knells of late stage capitalism, right? For 45 plus years, we've had this sort of same approach to capitalism, beginning back in the 1980s when Reagan's administration eased antitrust regulation. Basically, it's been grow at any cost, right? Bigger is always better. Consolidate, grow by acquisition, right? Take over the market as much as you can. We saw Jack Welch do this with GE for 20 years during his reign there. And we've seen other companies do it too. We've seen Walmart behave this way. We've seen Amazon behave this way. We're watching, media conglomerates behave this way with the Paramount Skydance, Warner Brothers Discovery merger. But what's happening is, to me, what looks like a bit of a grassroots movement, right? Because the federal government has essentially abdicated their responsibility in preventing this kind of consolidation and this kind of monopolistic behavior. And so what we have is 5 regular subscribers, right? Regular people, a union group, so workers, right? Filing suit, and then above that, state governments also filing suit. Right. So we have, to my mind, what looks like a bit of a grassroots movement growing in backlash to and in opposition to this kind of consolidation. And basically, this merger day by day is looking less and less likely. There's a guy, Evan Shapiro. I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name. I don't remember. He refers to himself as the media cartographer on LinkedIn. If you haven't seen him, check him out. He's a really interesting guy, at least from my perspective, because I'm a media nerd. But he now has this merger at 75% not likely not to happen, 25% to happen, right? Like, he's got the odds stacked heavily against this merger actually coming through because of this opposition. And to me, it's looking more and more like this sort of grassroots opposition movement against consolidation, against conglomerates, against monopolistic behavior, and against this idea that you don't have to earn customers, right? As you said, you don't have to earn customers. You don't have to build relationships with people. The idea that companies like Skydance, Paramount have with this merger with Warner Brothers Discovery is we'll just buy everybody else, and then they have to come to us because we're the only game in town, right? We're so big that they don't have any other good options, and so they will come to us by default. And I think we're seeing, kind of from the consumer up, the beginnings of a real pushback against that. And to me, what it signals is a really, really huge opportunity. I mean, huge upside opportunity for smaller, medium-sized businesses to begin to suck up market share, and to begin to build real relationships with audiences, to drive customers to their businesses, because people are tired of not having a choice, right? People are tired of having to order from Amazon because it's the only place they can get something, right? Or it's the only convenient option to go to Walmart, right? People are tired of not having that choice, and they're pushing back against it. And I don't think it bodes well for these conglomerates. And I'm totally okay with that, because at the end of the day, less conglomerates means more competition, means more small and medium-sized business success means better employment, means better treatment of workers, right? All around, it's a better situation for all of us to be in, both on the business side and on the consumer side. So I'm all for it. But this is, I see this because of the lens that I look through. Again, this is my interpretation of the facts as they stand. I see this as the beginning of a changing tide in the way that people want to interact with businesses, and people putting their foot down and saying, enough is enough, no more. We want to make choices based on who has earned our preference, who has earned our loyalty, who has earned our respect and our decision to support their brand or their business. So that's I think where we are.
Tom, I like where you took this, and I have so many thoughts on this as you brought it up. I wonder if the formula has always been broken. So I'm going to just reference a few industries that I think this same thing has happened since the beginning of time. So you grow organically, you grow at the same store, meaning if I'm a restaurant, if I'm Fridays, first we grow ourselves. If we're a pharmacy, first we grow ourselves at same store. We build relationships. Then eventually at that store, we can do no more business. We only have so many hours in the day, so many tables, so many pharmacists, so many products that a Sears can deliver. And then all of a sudden, we build another one. We build second store, third location, fourth location, fifth location. Then all of a sudden, our locations that we're building, we're out of locations. So we acquire. Businesses acquire. Now they start buying up the other ones. Like you're saying, these mergers. And it's funny that people complaining, they've already bought up people. They just haven't bought up as many yet. And so now they're to a point, and it's every business, whether it's TGI Fridays. I used to work at a restaurant named King's. You go to the market, you're trying pharmacies like Rite Aid. They bought up all the little guys. They grew to a point, and then every one of these places, once they grow, once they get to this high level, the model, it works for, it's like an animal or something that eats itself. At some point, the model eats itself. The shareholders want more, and there is no more. And then they have to break it up, sell it off in pieces, and it's the end of this big thing. It's like it doesn't get any bigger than the biggest. It can't. Then it breaks up, and then it dies. So maybe the answer is, like you're saying, relationships, building something that's good, that does good, that makes an impact. But once you start trying to acquire and answer to all these people, you can't be all things to all people. And the death knell, I'm going to say the death knell was already there. And we see all these big things one after another, whether it's movie theaters, restaurants, pharmacies, the same thing happens, and it's probably going to happen again. So what say you to my rebuttal, Tom?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that stems from this idea, this concept that growth is the only measure of success in business, right? If you are not growing, you are failing. And I just think that's not true, right? There are so many other ways. I mean, being in the green is a success in business, right? Like forget about, hitting double-digit growth every year, right? Like, how about just being profitable? That's a win, right? So I think what just popped into my head when you were talking about restaurants, right? There's a famous restaurant in Spain. I forget the name of it, but it's the oldest operating restaurant in the world. It's been in continuous operation since sometime in the 1700s, 1600s, something like that. I mean, hundreds of years. This same restaurant in the same location has been in operation. They still serve a lot of the same menu items that they served a couple hundred years ago, right? Like a whole roast suckling pig is one of their big menu items, right? And they've been serving it for a couple hundred years. So is that restaurant, because it is not a multinational chain, are you going to tell me that the oldest operating restaurant in the world isn't a success? That having the kind of longevity to become the oldest operating restaurant in the world doesn't signify some level of success? Having the customer loyalty and customer retention and being able to build relationships with generations of families over the course of their business career, like, that's not success? What are you talking about? Like, how can growth be the only measure of success? It only makes sense if you subscribe to, and I'm glad Julie's here because I'm going to mention her favorite Nobel laureate economist. It only makes sense if you are a devout believer in, a devotee of Milton Friedman and his idea, his argument, that he published in an essay in the New York Times Magazine in 1970, that the only responsibility of businesses is to deliver value to their shareholders. And if that's what you believe, then growth is the only measure of success, because growth is the only way to continue to deliver value to your shareholders over time, right? Increased value to your shareholders over time, right? Growth is the only way to do that. But if you believe that business can have more than a singular narrow purpose, right? It's to support communities, it's to deliver services to people, it's to feed hungry people in a particular city in Spain, right? Like, if you believe that businesses can have more than one purpose, right, and that the purpose of all businesses ultimately is to provide a service to its customers or its audience, right, or its community that it serves, then yeah, then all of a sudden business success takes on a multitude of meanings, right? And there are a multitude of ways to measure it, and growth is not the only metric that applies. And I think, my hope is that we are moving away from that style of business and moving more towards a style of business where people look at the longevity of the business, like the service that it provides people, whether or not it's profitable, right? Like, maybe it's profitable by the same margin year over year, but if it keeps earning a profit, like, it's not broken, right? So it is successful. So yeah, so I just think that there's a lot more metrics to measure. It's not just about growth, right? And growth by any means necessary, including consolidation, acquisition, mergers, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what we're seeing, I hope, is a pushback. Maybe people wouldn't put such a fine point on it, that's what they're pushing back against. But I think in the sort of general consensus in the public, emotional consciousness in America right now, anyway, people are freaking fed up, man. They're tired of these huge conglomerates run by a handful of people who are just raking us over the coals and trying to extract every possible dollar from us at every possible turn. They're tired of it, and they want for something different. And I think at the end of the day, the customers are going to win, right? The consumers are going to win because there's so many more of us than there are of them.
Tom, I'm enjoying the conversation, and I wonder if this acquisition as shareholders, they're giving it to the shareholders, giving them the money, giving them a higher return. I wonder if these shareholders are going to start thinking, Chipotle, we're in acquisition stage, we're opening up stores too fast. That's how now it's no longer the stores aren't earning as much anymore. Now we had to open more stores, like Starbucks closing stores. Like it's the same thing over and over and over. I mean, come on now, Tom. Dr. Tachi, we're coming to you in a second to weigh in on this. I want to tell you, when I was in pharmaceuticals, sold pharmaceuticals, at one of the companies, we were ranked quarter over quarter by scripts and growth. This is your two metrics to get paid. So if I grew at a 12% the next quarter, that was my baseline for the next quarter. I had to grow over the 12 the next quarter, and that's what I was based on, the percentage over that I grew on. So I would drive down the road sometimes, and you'd start to get your ranking reports 10 weeks in, and let's say my growth was doing really well, and I was ranking high on the report. I'd call Liz and be like, oh shit, I'm growing too much. I can't, well, Dom, just grow at 20 next quarter. That's not reality. So I'd be out in the field like, okay, I guess I'll start working on the well or the bigger account because to just get more this quarter, I'm screwed for next quarter and I'm not going to make any money. So I'd be like, uh, truth be told, Liz, I think I'm coming home. I think I'm coming home today and working on my book stuff because or else next quarter I'm going to get fired because how am I going to beat 12 or 13 next quarter? I got to grow at, if I grow at 20, I had an 8% increase and I'm down. So growth cannibalized everything sometimes. So, all right, this is not the smartest guys in the room. We're deep. Before we get to Tom's thumbs, Dr. Tachi, what do you want to weigh in on this? Good morning. You want to weigh in on this deep subject today? Where are you at with your thoughts on all this?
Oh, this is such a great conversation. And good morning to you both and everyone in the room and who will be listening on the replay. So, this is all very interesting. I'm like getting nuggets from both of you, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes to both of you. This is one thing that I want to add to what Tom said in terms of consumer being just damn tired of everything because we are. But I think it also, and I don't really want to make things political, but you can't avoid talking about it. I think also the erosion of this freedom of speech, when you look at the fact that the Ellisons purchase the whole Paramount Skydance thing, and also all the other things they're trying to buy up as well at the same time, you see that there has been a degradation of the freedom of speech. All you have to do is look at 60 Minutes and what happened there. All you have to, even though ABC is different, and you talk about what they're trying to do with The View, there's this whole thing that government is way too involved in this, and the heads of these multinational media corporations are in cahoots. I think that's another thing that has added to people being tired of the whole thing. So in addition to being screwed by charging more, not caring what you charge, not caring about the consumer at all, you also don't want us to see the very people that are your audience. You also don't want us to see certain things because you're okay with the censorship of certain things. So I think that also adds to the fatigue of this as well.
Tom, what do you think, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense, Dr. Tachi. Absolutely. I think it's funny because you hear people say all the time, like, "Oh, don't threaten the Second Amendment. Don't threaten people's guns, right? Don't come for their guns." It's been used as a political cudgel for I think decades now. That this idea that one party is going to come for your guns, and they're using that to sort of rally support. But I think the miscalculation is that a broader swath of people are much more upset and much more willing to lay down and draw a line in the sand when you come for their voice. And that's what's happening with some of this consolidation and the control of CBS News, handing it over to people who are woefully unqualified to run it. The degradation of a news institution like 60 Minutes, the politicization of it. I'm saying that it's not coming out right, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's absolutely something that has ignited a fire under more people than I think that sort of Second Amendment cudgel ever could. The other thing that popped into my head too is you look at some of the behavior in this. I think the other thing too is that it is not, Dom, you were talking about shareholders. It's becoming less and less about shareholders and becoming more and more about just taking money from everyone and concentrating it in the hands of the few. And I think a great example of that in sort of recent memory is the IPO of SpaceX, which IPO'd with the highest valuation of any company ever to IPO. They rammed through, they fast tracked it. It's been rammed through to get approvals to go on some of the markets that normally you have to there's a waiting period for, and you have to demonstrate profitability to even be included in some of these markets. They've kind of bypassed that for SpaceX, and basically everybody who bought the IPO has lost money, right? Everybody who bought at the IPO has lost money. Guess who hasn't lost any money, right? Good old Elon hasn't lost any money, right? And other huge shareholders have not lost any money, right? But the people who bought shares when that stock debuted have all lost money because it's tanked, because it was overvalued, and it was always going to dip, right? It was always going to happen. It'll likely never actually realize the value that they proposed for it at the very beginning. It was always going to dip, and they knew it was going to dip, and they decided to do it anyway because, a few people sitting in a room decided, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of other people are going to lose money, but we're going to make a ton of money, so like, let's just do it, right? And that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing the Ellisons, this immensely wealthy family, right? And the nepo baby son is the one who is sort of orchestrating these mergers and acquisitions, right? It is this very small, very tight knit group of incredibly wealthy people that are, I think there's no other word for it, being very rapacious in the way that they are seeking to extract capital and money from the majority of the population. And I think people have just had enough. People are going to eat the rich. It's happening. I mean that metaphorically. I don't mean that as a threat, a cannibalistic threat. I mean that metaphorically, but I'm serious. People are going to eat the rich, metaphorically.
Tom's bringing it today. Tom, I want to say I just watched Citizen Kane in the last 6 months, and I would offer that this same thing has been happening for hundreds of years. And then even I'm going to point out two more industries. Like I gave you restaurants and pharmacies that died. I'm going to keep on giving industries. I'm going to keep thinking about them throughout. Newspapers grew, acquired. And then when there was no more acquiring, they bled it dry. They died, basically. Then radio, it was, they grew their market. They grew to different markets. They acquired. Then streaming changed. iHeartRadio bought. Now iHeart owns everything. Every station's in iHeartRadio. Now they grew, they died. But before we get into that, I'm going to take us to AI the second half of the show too, because a lot of people think they can just grow everything now with AI. Forget relationships, forget earning a customer. I'm just going to do it all by AI. But before that, since you said about eating everything, I have two Tom's thumbs here, but I'm going to go with the one that is a food-based Tom's thumb. It's summertime, Tom. A thumbs up or thumbs down to an all-American hot dog?
I think that there are a few things that, to my mind, are sort of quintessentially American, at least in the America that I grew up in, right? I think often people say it's as American as apple pie, right? And obviously, I mean, who doesn't like a good slice of apple pie? But a barbecue or a cookout, right, in the summertime is a quintessentially American event, right? And I've seen this through the lens, especially recently. I've seen this through the lens of some folks from overseas, from other parts of the world, experiencing that for the first time, right? Experiencing a backyard barbecue, right? A backyard cookout for the first time in the U.S. and responding to it in that way, understanding and appreciating that it is a quintessentially American experience. And I think there are a few things that are on the menu of virtually every sort of cookout that happens in America, and those menu items have to be sort of I think categorized in the same way. Some of those are a hamburger, right? A grilled burger, right? I think like potato salad, right? Depending on where you are, maybe macaroni salad, definitely some kind of coleslaw, right? Are almost always included in those kind of events, that backyard barbecue. And of course, not to be slighted by mentioning it last, the hot dog is included in that backyard barbecue. Now, the hot dog as we know it is a version of a German sausage. It came to the U.S. and was the first version of it was made in the U.S. Kind of has become the hot dog that most of us know today by Nathan's on Coney Island. They are sort of the originator of the hot dog as we know it in the US. There's lots of different recipes all over the country. Different areas make their version of the hot dog slightly differently, but that's where it started, right? Was Nathan's hot dogs on Coney Island. And it was an adaptation of a German sausage, but heavy on the garlic. It was all beef. Yeah, I mean, it was a Wurst, German sausage, and they started calling it a hot dog here on Coney Island in New York. And so, yeah, I mean, there is a ton of Americana. The hot dog is an American invention. There is no other place in the world where you get a hot dog, right? Every place else, it's a sausage, or it's a specific kind of sausage, but it's never called a hot dog, right? Anywhere else. That is an American thing. And I think it isn't summer if you haven't had a hot dog or two, right? So while I don't eat a ton of hot dogs, and I don't recommend that you eat hot dogs every day, because they're not great for you, they are delicious. And if you're an adult over 12 years old, you shouldn't put ketchup on it. I'll just throw that out there as a proviso. But regardless of how you eat it, I think there are a few things more American, right, in food culture than the hot dog. And so for all of those reasons, it gets a big thumbs up for me.
Tom, I eat hot dogs. I got to put a lot of stuff on a hot dog to get it down. I'm jalapenos, sauerkraut, onions, mustard. I just don't like the straight hot dog. I'm not down with it. And I went to and I see Dr. Tachi's comment here. Me and Cameron went to a double-A baseball game the other day, and I ordered a sausage dog. And I was thinking, what's this? This ought to be cool. I wanted a hot sausage today. And it came out and it was a hot dog. I didn't know. I was like, damn it, this is just a normal hot dog. Yeah. So
is that true of every hot dog, or is it just certain hot dogs? Because are you just
what, that I don't really like?
Yeah, are you just eating terrible hot dogs, or
I eat ballpark, all beef, brother. I mean, I any hot dog, I mean, I gotta put chili. I'll put chili and onions and mustard and jalapeno. I can't. It's not for me. Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy with just mustard. In an ideal world, I like sauerkraut and mustard on a hot dog. To me, that's the way to eat a hot dog. That's a very New York kind of way to eat a hot dog. But to me, that's the way to eat a hot dog is just mustard and sauerkraut.
Okay, now we got to get into something real important here on following up this. So, Julie, since you're not up on stage, you can put in the comments. Dr. Tachi, I want to know from you. And Tom mentioned Coney Island. How many hot dogs do you think you can eat, Dr. Tachi? Would you eat a hot dog, and how many could you eat in 10 minutes?
That's exactly why I put that comment there. I despise hot dog eating contests. I can't stand Nathan's. They show it on TV every year, and I make sure I change so I can't see it. That type of gastronomy is awful. So I can only eat one. And like Tom said, I only do that every so often. But it has to be good because I don't like condiments. So if it's not a good quality hot dog, there's no need for me to eat it because I'm going to eat it plain with just the bread.
You are not like me, Dr. Tachi. Okay, Tom, how many do you think you can eat? And did you see Joey Chestnut eating those 70 hot dogs? It is gross. I agree with Dr. Tachi. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing appetizing about those eating contests, right? Like none of them look appetizing. None of them look pleasant or fun, right? It's a competition to see how much you can stuff in your mouth as quickly as possible. But like, I want to enjoy food. So yeah, so 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes is nonsense. No, thank you. Not interested. How many could I eat if I was gonna, if I was kind of put to the test? I mean, I don't know, a dozen, something like that. Probably, I could probably get a dozen down, but like, I wouldn't want to. I think the most hot dogs I've ever eaten, like in a day, is probably like six. You know, like hanging out all day, cooking out.
God,
Like,
I find my barber shop has a at in like December, they have a Christmas that goes on for like a week, and they'll eat like thousands of hot dogs at the barber shop. And he just like has these rollers and big things, and you go to the shop and you come out and you smell like uh five, you smell like a speed, like a convenience store, 7-Eleven that has those rollers. You go in there and there's like this film that you could like cut through with a butter knife. That's how you smell at my barber shop when he has his annual Christmas party.
there's a great dive bar in Hell's Kitchen in New York City called Rudy's. And it was right around the corner from my office when I worked for the BBC. We used to go there pretty often, often enough anyway. And it had a giant like pig statue out in front of Rudy's, right? You couldn't miss it. And one of the things that Rudy's had was if you were in there drinking, then they had free hot dogs and they had free popcorn and or hot dogs and popcorn, as you would say. And yeah, so you could go into Rudy's and it was the rollers, right? And there was no ceremony to it. It was if they had hot dogs on the rollers and you got a bartender's attention and you asked for one, you could have one. If they ran out, they'd throw a package on. You had to wait. And it was literally they would take a bun out of the bag and they would take a hot dog off the rollers and put it on the bun and then put down a thing of ketchup and a thing of mustard in front of you, and that was it. That was the options, right? So it was like just cheap, trashy hot dogs, and a gross like Wonder Bread bun, and some yellow mustard. But it was great at like 2 o'clock in the morning after a long night with a bunch of people hanging out and drinking in the backyard at Rudy's, grabbing a couple of hot dogs. Like if you came out with a handful of hot dogs for everybody, man, you were the hero. It was great.
We used to hang out down in Morgantown, WVU, when I was young with some of my best friends went to school there, and they had the dollar dog guy outside at night, like you're saying, and dollar dogs at 2 a.m. I admit I've eaten more hot dogs than in my normal time. And I told Liz today that I had two things I was going to ask you about. And I said, well, I might ask him about hot dogs or this. And she said, you better make sure you don't say hot dogs, because if you say hot dogs, Tom is going to get on you. So I have intentionally worked on my enunciation today and said hot dogs every time.
You have not. You have said hot dogs a bunch of times. You absolutely have not said hot dogs every time. You have said hot dogs a bunch of times.
This is like when we did our March Madness. Dr. Tachi, have I said hot dogs every time, or have I slipped in hot dogs today?
I think I'm just so used to your intonation, Dom, that I just assumed you said hot dog. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, so I don't know.
There we go.
All
right, we're rolling.
It sounds to me like Dr. Tachi has her like Dom auto translate on, and so she's hearing you're saying hot dog, and she's hearing hot dog.
Hey, then I'm doing a good job. Then I'm saying it right. Tom, okay, I want to just double back on the subject here. When we're talking about growth at all cost, I've noticed recently on the same line that people are using AI the same kind of um, saying, I'm going to use AI and it's going to get me
Hey,
more customers.
yeah, you're
I'm
breaking
going
up
to
bad,
play
man.
this and churn and burn and get myself hundreds of new.
I
I'm noticing people using AI with the same vigor as acquisition lately. I'm going to AI everything. Instead of building a relationship, instead of reaching out one by one, I'm going to AI my whole product. I'm going to AI my whole service, and it's going to solve all my problems and it's going to scale my business to the next level. I don't think that's true in all cases. And I think that the customer, the end user, is going to say, wait, that isn't Tom. That isn't Dom. That isn't the business that I know, liked, and trust. And now I don't want to do business with them. So I think this same, as we saw Fridays, as we saw pharmacies, as we saw radio, as we saw newspaper, I think the same thing is going to happen with the people that are over reliant on AI. What say you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what we're seeing is, I would liken it more to a bubble, right? I think AI has been oversold and overpromised, and it is under delivering what was promised, right? And I'm not particularly surprised by that. I mean, I think we talked about this probably like 6 months ago. We talked about this sort of overpromise of AI and people thinking it was going to replace everybody, and they were laying tons of people off, and then they were having to turn around. Now they're having to turn around and try to hire people back because they realized that, like, actually AI couldn't replace huge swaths of their workforce. And so now they're in a scramble to try to get people back on, right, who they let go because they realize that productivity is tailing off. The other thing that's happening that's really interesting is, again, AI has been burning cash. I mean, just lighting mountains of cash on fire, right? In this effort to sort of grow and scale as fast as possible. And essentially, what's happened is their sales have not caught up, right? Their revenue is not caught up to their expenditures. And they're in a situation where it's looking ever more likely that the bubble is going to burst. And you compound that with, I can't remember now if it was Uber or Airbnb, but one of those two companies, with like tech heavy companies, right? Like Uber or Airbnb. I think it was Uber, who basically, by the end of the first quarter of this year, had burned through their budget for AI tokens, right? Because using AI, it turned out, was much more expensive on an enterprise level than anybody accounted for, that they were using a lot more tokens than they had accounted for. And so AI companies were always banking on this idea that we'll get them in, we'll get them hooked with a cheap subscription, and then we'll switch to a token based subscription model that will cost more money for them, but they'll already be so entrenched that they won't leave us and they'll stick around. And the problem is Airbnb or Uber, whoever it was, but like companies are now turning around and going, well, actually, that doesn't make any financial sense for us. Like, if we already burned through our budget in the first quarter, we're going to 4x our budget to just keep up, like to just scratch hit the bare minimum. And then if we want to grow our usage over time, it's going to cost more than that. Like, we could do it cheaper with people. Why would we do it with AI? Right. And so I think that's the other side of things too, is that they're finding out that in real practice, trying to use AI to replace workforce is actually more expensive than the workforce. And so it doesn't make any sense. So I think we're hitting a bubble where it's been overpromised, it's been overhyped. We had all these, we had Sam Altman and all these guys out in front saying that, AI was gonna replace everybody, and like nobody was gonna have jobs, and like, we were gonna have to go to like a universal basic income in order for people to be able to live. But that would be great because we'd have more idle time to do all kinds of things that we wanted to do, and so on and so forth. And the truth is that none of that's really true. That it is much more akin to the productivity boost and the efficiency boost that we saw with the internet and not quite as completely transformative as it was positioned. And so, now you got a place where they've overpromised and underdelivered, and I think that bubble is inevitably going to pop, right? And we're going to see a whole bunch of AI companies fail as a result of it. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think it's because of the bed that they've made for themselves, right? Kind of to your point, that they've created a situation in which the majority of them are doomed to fail because they just simply can't all exist in this world that they've constructed.
The bubble is, like you said, the bubble will break. That's a very astute way to put it. Okay, we got Synchronous up here. Synchronous may have a counter opinion. So Synchronous, what do you got? Make it quick because we got a few things and then we're gonna wrap up. But what did you want to add, my friend?
I think the outsourcing to AI is fundamentally going to challenge like where we would see the next generation of leaders. Unfortunately, people are outsourcing their homework. They're not learning. If you think of Google Maps, for example, like you outsourced the idea of, understanding how to navigate. A lot of people can't even like like they're unable to go to another city and just look at a map and understand how to navigate. They instead type it into Google Maps for that point A to point B navigation. I am what I my biggest concern with the number of AI companies that have come into the market and everything that is available right now is that people are going to fundamentally like stop thinking, stop learning. They're going to outsource it. That would be my biggest like fear, is that we're going to end up with a world of dumb and people are outsourcing intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, I Synchronous, thanks for coming up. Thanks for saying that. I think, at the end of the day, you're right. It's kind of, I think the best hope for, people like Sam Altman and some of the other folks who are, probably Elon with Grok and a couple other folks who are heavily invested in AI. Amadei, I always forget how to pronounce his name, but from Claude. These sort of leaders, it probably is their best hope that idiocracy comes to fruition, right? Because if idiocracy becomes true, then people will be dependent on their AI, and then they can sell them anything they want, right? And also, if we go to a universal basic income, they end up with like sort of an endless bucket of money coming their way from people shoveling it into their systems. So, yeah, I mean, I think, in a very dystopian way, that is probably some of their wishes, right? There's a really interesting study that a professor conducted out of Brown University based on whether or not people were using AI in his class. And it turned out that pretty much everybody was, and that when he took, because he traditionally had always given take-home tests, and basically everybody was asking AI for the answers. And so instead of actually finding the answers themselves in a textbook or in a source material, whatever. And so when he changed the rule and made them come in to take an exam in class or to take their midterm in class, nobody passed. Like literally nobody in the class passed the midterm. It was dramatic how badly everyone did. Yeah, so I think, if you haven't seen that study, it's really interesting. But I think people are starting to ring the alarm bells, and it's good. Like we have to create consequences for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. The other aspect, of course, is that it's easy to poison the model and the source material that those AI models are getting information from. So That would be another aspect, is that if you're not taught to critically examine or analyze, and you're reliant on these models, then you're basically setting yourself up for uh, problems in the future. And that's like, for example, it was very I think it was pretty transparent. Maybe not everyone would agree with me, but when we saw the tariffs roll out under the Trump administration when he was reelected, the it was obviously an AI model um, that decided to that basically made the decisions for how tariffs were going to roll out,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
why you had countries that didn't even have individuals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why we were
So
tariffing islands that were uninhabited.
yes,
And
precisely.
weren't even autonomous countries, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
That's
yeah,
the kind of idiocracy you get, right, with over reliance on AI. But I think it's important culturally that we create consequences for over reliance on it. And I think the work of that professor at Brown, other folks in academia and in the educational systems ringing alarm bells about AI and its overuse, hopefully are going to
yeah,
drive behavior towards putting up roadblocks to and creating consequences for that kind of behavior. So we do teach people to ask my favorite question, why, right? More and more, and to make sure that people continue to ask that question going forward. So Synchronous, again, thanks so much for being here. I hate to cut you off, but we're like up against the hour. We got
understood.
yeah, got a couple more pieces of business we got to get to. But please do come back to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Again, we do this almost every week. We're not going to be here next week because we're both on vacation next week. But the week after, we'll be back. And we are here almost every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So please do come back. Please participate. We really appreciate it.
Do you mind if I ask you, like, just a brief, like, what is your background? I haven't come across this space before, so
Yeah.
curious.
So just so you know, Synchronous. So Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Dom and I have been doing this together for 6 years now, 5 years, something like that, 5 years or so. He's in publishing. I'm in media production. I come from a television background. Dom comes from a sales background and a restaurant background, entrepreneurial background. Right? I think that's fair. He's nodding and smiling, so we'll take that. And we do this room live every week. We record it. It goes out as a podcast later. It's also live streaming right now on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and a couple other places. So that's Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. The goal is to always have brilliant people come in, join the conversation with us, and for us not to be the smartest guys in the room. So that's the goal. We appreciate you being here with us, but we got to get moving because we try to keep it to an hour. And we're just over an hour now. So we got a couple of things to get to. Dom, why don't you take us on a walk down memory lane real quick?
Will do, Tom. And since my phone went out, my recording went out a couple times today, I'm sure it'll edit down to a nice little hour. But I wanted to say I'm wearing my Creative Con shirt today. This is Creative Con Boston. We had the memory lane is this weekend. We had our first Creative Con on the road. We're calling it OTR. And Tom, you were at the first rendition of Creative Con years back, and now we took it to the community, took it out. Here's an idea. You create something, you don't know where it's going to go. And this weekend, we were able to take it to a different city and have a more intimate setting where we made it guest first, business first, attendee first, and we didn't even call the people speakers. We called them strategists because it was all about building their brands and businesses. And the memory lane is, if you build it, they will come. If you believe, if the idea, if the concept's pure, if you don't over pressure it and expect day one was not perfect, right? Years ago, we were we stayed down the road from where we were at. There was a lot of things messed up, but you just keep moving forward. And that was Creative Con on the road. And people were smiling and yelling Creative Con at the end of it. So it went well, Tom. So that's memory lane for today.
I love it, man. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we got PSAs. Before we go to PSAs, you could go first. So set yourself up for a PSA. But I wanted to tell you, as far as this coding, I was paying somebody the other day to do some work that I think a coder would do, and they started using Microsoft Copilot and was asking Copilot the questions that we both need to know. And I was like, I think I could ask Copilot those same questions. So their reliance on AI made me not spend with them. Come on. So, I mean, somebody, like we were saying about this dependence on AI, here's somebody depending on AI right in front of me. And I'm like, wait a minute. I think I'm smart enough to ask the same question that you're asking AI. So,
I hear you. I think, and I have similar thoughts like that happen, to me too. But I think the other way to think about it, the other question to ask yourself is, yes, like, could I do this with AI? Probably, yeah, I could. Is it a good use of my time, right? Or is it worthwhile to pay someone else to do this with AI instead of me using my time to do this with AI, right? Like, I think that's what it comes down to in my mind is like, what's the best use of my time? Like, how do I maximize my time to drive results for my business, right? You like to talk about, what is it? Profit-making behavior or something like that? Or what do you call it again?
My IGA, income generating activity. Is that what
income generating activity? That's what it is. Your IGAs, right? So like, is it an IGA for you to ask AI those questions, right? Or could you be doing something else that is an IGA and spending a little bit of money to pay somebody else to ask those questions, right?
Damn you, Tom. That's a really good point. Yeah. So, sometimes you need those reminders. And Synchronous put a nice comment in the chat. She found a new place today. So hope to see you back or in a few weeks, and check out the podcast too. But Tom, give us a PSA. You ready to give a PSA? Yeah. This is where we lean in. It could be about anything going on in the world. These are short, less than a minute. We just got a PSA on something. Go on.
Yeah. All right. So mine actually is related to what we were just talking about. And it goes like this. Anybody that knows me knows that I think this whole like grind culture is absolute nonsense, right? I think at the end of the day, it makes no sense. I think my favorite encapsulation of it is some knucklehead who was on a podcast who was talking about how, he basically did 3 days worth of work in 24 hours because he would do something for 8 hours and something else for 8 hours and then something else for 8 hours. And now he did 3 days worth of work in 24 hours. And it's like, yeah, but there's no time to actually have a life in there. And that's not real, and that's not good, and it's not sustainable. It doesn't make any sense. Grind culture is bullshit. I'm going on vacation next week. Dom's going to go on vacation too. And I think it's a good reminder, a good PSA to remember that rest and recuperation and recovery and leisure time is important in sustainability when it comes to actually being productive, right? So make sure you make time to take time off.
Tom, great reminder. Well done. And you are somebody from that grind culture you're gonna be at the mall someday. Somebody's gonna walk up and take a swing at you. So you better be ready.
That's fine. They can take a swing. I'll duck it and I'll tell them it's all bullshit.
Yeah, and since you're running an Ironman, you can run for 26 miles and they'll never catch you. So, and good luck with that. All right. All right, set me up here with my PSA. I'm keeping it simple today. I said I was just in Boston, took a plane, got rerouted, all kinds of stuff like that. So on and off the plane, multiple times. People that listen to not the smartest guys in the room. I hate cutting. I can't stand cutting. I hate people that cut in line. I'm sorry. Tom, when the airplane stops and everybody stands up, the people that come from the back, who do you think you are? Why would I let you? And I'm like waiting, like I'm like boxing out, like in basketball. Like I saw one guy cut in front of the lady across from me, and I was just like furious over it. He didn't cut in front of me yet. He cut in front of that lady, and I get so mad about it. Wait your turn in life. Wait your turn. We all have to wait our turn. You don't get to jump the line. So you don't get to jump the line. That's my PSA. Wait your turn. Thank you, Tom.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's funny too. You like different cultures have like different versions of personal space. And so I remember one of the first times I flew. I've taken multiple times for work over the years. When I worked in TV, I've flown to the direct New York to Hong Kong flight, which is a very long flight. One of the first times I flew it, though, I remember the experience of getting off the plane, and particularly in Chinese culture, there is not this sort of this bubble around each individual that we sort of have in Western culture when it comes to personal space. And so everybody is literally just touching each other, right? Like literally up against each other, fully touching, total strangers, right? Like, and so I'm standing there and I'm sandwiched between people who are just fully touching me. And as a Westerner, right, as an American, I'm like, this is really awkward, but I'm looking around and everybody else is doing this and everybody else is okay with it. So I'm like, all right, this is a cultural thing. I'm the one who's different. So like, I need to figure out how to deal with this and how to cope with it. But like, if for a quick second, I almost started throwing elbows. Like it was, because it was one of those things, like in the US, if somebody was literally physically like leaning into your back or touching your back, like in a line, you would turn around and be like, hey man, take a step back, right? And so I was getting like kind of getting up to the point where I was going to start pushing and like throwing an elbow back to get somebody to back off. And I looked around and I was like, oh no, this is normal here. I'm the one who's different. Like I need to figure out how to deal with this. But yeah, it was eye-opening cultural moment when I was like, oh, personal space is a very different concept here than it is with at home where I'm used to it.
Tom, maybe me and you need to relax. I mentioned that baseball game with the sausage dog. We're sitting there, and a guy was turned looking at me, like I'm watching the baseball game, and I see a guy turned from the row in front of me, just staring at me. And I'm like, finally, I was like, is there something wrong? And my son said, Dad, he's not looking at you. He's looking at somebody else. And when I asked him if there was something wrong, he was so focused on whoever he was looking at, didn't even see me, Tom. So, Tom, we could go all day, but you got to wrap us up. What do you got?
All right, buddy. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been all over the map today. We've talked about hot dogs and Rudy's dive bar and your trip to Boston and Ironman races. But at the end, over reliance on AI, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we've been really all over the map today, but which I always love. But I think what I want to leave everybody with is a simple idea and a simple reminder, and that is that at the end of the day, the people who really control the behavior of businesses are not the people who run the businesses. It's the people who support the businesses. The market, which is made up of customers who are people, individuals, human beings, right? Those control businesses. At the end of the day, businesses will always adapt to the market demands, because if they want to stay in business, if they want to make money, they have to deliver for the market. And if the market says what you're doing is unacceptable, the businesses will change. And I think that's what we're starting to see with these lawsuits moving to block the merger between Paramount Skydance and Warner Brothers Discovery. And I am buoyed by that, because I believe it is the beginning of a movement that will ultimately serve to transform business in a positive direction. I'm biased because it's kind of what I designed Legendeering to help do. So I'm excited because I see opportunity for the work that I'm trying to do to humanize the world of business coming to fruition. So I'm excited for that. But also, I'm just excited for people to have better relationships with the businesses that they interact with every day. I think that's a better world to live in. It's a place I want to live in. It's a place I want to be. And it's a place I want to do business. So that's what I'm excited about. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I see coming down the pike in the far distance, but soon to be the near future. And I hope everybody else sees it too and starts pushing in that direction. Dom, as always, thanks so much for doing this with me for 5 years, man. It's crazy that we've been doing that this long, but appreciate you, buddy, and appreciate you spending this time with me every week. As I do appreciate, and Dom, also, we appreciate all of you guys for listening, for joining us every week. Old friends who are here with us week after week, we love you guys. New friends, welcome. We appreciate you, and we hope we get to know you a little bit better over time. Next week, we are off. We will be back in 2 weeks with another rendition of Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. For Dom, I'm Tom. We are not the smartest guys in the room, thanks to all of you, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Love you guys. Bye-bye.